Hello again, YouTube. My name is Bree, and in today's video, I wanted to talk to you about my experiences doing a 1-year no-buy of art supplies. I know that YouTube tends to focus on unboxings and sponsored videos and new products and all kinds of things that kind of give a commercialized aspect to it. I feel a lot of YouTube is focused on showing off new products and new techniques and new styles and new things that all involve purchasing things, and I wanted to talk about kind of the complete opposite. And while I'm doing this, I'm going to be painting in my sketchbook made by my friend Spofgh using the Bockingford tinted watercolor paper. The paper is yellow. The piece of paper over the opposite page is more just so I didn't accidentally close it because the other side had gouache on it and it was sealed with wax, but I didn't want to rub off and prevent me from painting on this side. I meant to take it off for the video itself and I kind of just forgot, and it's really awkward looking there, so oops. The paints I'm using today are all beam paints. I've had this palette for quite some time and you can tell I haven't used it all that much, so I wanted to bring it back in, and I will be bringing out some paint stones later, also from Beam. And I'm using my usual Princeton VelvetTouch and Neptune brushes. So with that out of the way, I guess I should also mention that this is just another doodle. I've been really busy in the past couple weeks, so I just had time for kind of a quick sketchbook doodle. And I don't really have much to say about the piece itself. What I really wanted to talk about is no-buy. So the last art supply purchase I made was November 11th, 2020, and that was the paint stones from Beam Paints that you'll see me bring out later. That's kind of why I chose Beam for this video. And since then, I have been not buying any art supplies. I did kind of cheat once, and that's with the cup easel that you may have seen in a prior video. I really debated whether I should buy that while I was still technically under no buy, and I decided that it kind of aligned more with furniture than art supplies, and I was hoping it would help me get out more. Unfortunately, the weather has been either really hot or really rainy, so I haven't been able to take it out much, but I definitely will soon, so I guess I didn't need to buy it during the no buy period anyway. Lesson learned. But essentially what my goal was to not purchase any art supplies, and I also kind of tried to reduce like journaling supplies, notebooks, pens, inks, that kind of stuff for an entire year. And the reason I wanted to do this was because I was becoming aware of how big my art supply collection was and also how much of it didn't really get used. So watercolor lasts a really long time, especially in the way I paint, and I feel like I'll never use up anything. After a year of not buying new paints, I've barely made, if I even made, a dent in my collection. Like, I think I see it most. My alizarin crimson pile is getting a little lower, and that was only, I think, a 5 milliliter tube, but I haven't refilled any pans, anything, any palettes this whole time, and I still have so much paint. So a couple things contributed to this. One was that I've been involved in some Discord communities, one of which was Torre Gedvillas. I should know that by now. And in that group, great group of people, but everybody would kind of enable everyone else's buying of stuff just because we would all get really excited about what everyone shared. And I'm sure this happens in every Discord community that's geared towards artists, but it was really the only one I had been involved with, and I started to see it more with other people than I noticed with myself, though I realized I was kind of part of the problem both on the purchasing side and the sharing side. So I definitely identified that I have a tendency to buy things when I'm stressed. I know some people like clothes or shoes or makeup, and for me it was art supplies. I'd get stressed out and I'd see something shiny like, oh, I need that paint, that's a beautiful color, I have to have it. Or a new brand would come up, like I learned about Beam Paints and I had to buy Beam Paints, and it was basically becoming a hoarding problem. So what I did last year, I decluttered my art supply collection, and with what I kept, I plan to go an entire year without buying anything new, and then at the end of that year, declutter again. So here I am a year later, and I wanted to talk a bit about my experiences and how it went, what I learned, and what my plans are for the future. So I already mentioned that one of the ideas behind it was I had too many art supplies, and throughout the year it just became more and more apparent to me how I still have way too many art supplies. Like I said, I barely made a dent in what I have, so it wasn't even like I used things up. Like I used up a couple 5 milliliter tubes of gouache, but I had already bought more before no buy because I knew I was running low, so it wasn't an issue. Like I had a big tube of white paint, so that wasn't an issue. I do want to, before I go on, I should say that I did have a couple exemptions from the no-buy policy. One was if I ran out of something that could not be replaced. So like pencil lead, if I had no pencil lead, I can't sketch. White gouache. My plan was if I ran out of something, even like if I ran out of ultramarine, for example, if I have another warm blue that could fill that spot for the rest of the year, I did not plan to replace. The other exemption I made was for gifts. I would accept gifts, and if I got a gift card, I'd be allowed to spend it. And even so, if I got an Amazon gift card, several times I tried not to buy art supplies. So I would let myself buy a video game or books or something just to kind of keep the no-buy spirit alive. And I think part of that was maturing and understanding that I had too much stuff and I didn't really need more. Now, I kind of went off the deep end with fountain pens later in the year, and when I got gift cards, I did buy fountain pens or inks, so that changed, and I did make a fountain pen purchase recently, so can't win them all. But I think for paints, paintbrushes, sketchbooks, I'm going to continue going with a no-buy for quite some time longer. Not as like rigid, I'm on no-buy, but I just don't need things. My brushes are still in great shape. I've taken care of them. I still have plenty of untouched or unfinished sketchbooks. And I still have so much paint that there's really no reason for me to buy more. So yeah, I do want to point out that if you are like me and you get that craving, like you're stressed and you get that craving to spend money on art supplies, it does eventually fade. It's very easy to go, oh, I'm on no buy. Like if someone's pointing out something like you really like this, I'm like, oh, too bad I'm on no buy. And it really does help because it's that really easy excuse to go, oh, sorry, can't buy it. And it's both for you and other people remember, and they might tease you, but they don't push too hard. There are a couple of things I've really wanted this whole time, and I still want them to this day, and that's, I really want to try Roman Schmal and also a Gallo watercolor paints. So one day, maybe, but not today. Even as I put together like my birthday list and I gotta pause for Juno. Look at her. Okay, she was very disruptive while I was filming, and I really wanted to share exactly when she was disrupting me because I actually had to put the brush down, and she's just so fluffy and ridiculous and makes the loudest cries. So anyway, there are definitely like handmade watercolor paints that I want to try, and I'm still tempted by them, but I'm able to go, no, you don't need it. And even as I was making Christmas list, birthday list, I wasn't as tempted to put it on, and honestly part of that is because watercolors aren't cheap and I kind of feel bad asking for them. But another part is I see my collection and how it hasn't gone down, and I don't know, I'm starting to feel bad when I'm not using things, when I'm not using those paints for a long period of time because someone else could be making use of them. So I don't know, it's psychological for a lot of it, but I've come a long way. So I don't need to hoard everything and have it just sitting here collecting dust. And while dried watercolor does stay good for a really long time, technically paper and paint do expire. So if I just have it collecting for years upon years, it really could be a situation where someone else could have used it, but now it's no good. I don't really know. I know people pick up like really old watercolor paint that they found from like antique stores and they still work. Sometimes not as well as others, but yeah, I know technically they expire. So what else? I did take a couple notes. I'm just glimpsing my notes. So one of the things I did learn is that I started working on color theory and really trying to understand color mixing and making more harmonious pieces, partly by using a more limited selection of colors. But through this, I really started to focus on that more and more. I kind of started this exercise last year, but through no-buy, I really started narrowing down small palettes that I really do love and focusing on those. And I've really found new favorites. And granted, they're paints I had bought at some point. It's part of my hoarding issue. But it's given me a different way of painting and a different way of looking at paint. So instead of looking at like a Schmincke 48 pan set, I'm looking at maybe 10 colors that I want to use in a given piece. And it's really changed how I look at colors and how I build up my paintings, because I'm working in more familiar limited palettes and I really care about these colors. Like, I get really excited about like my alizarin and my Indanthrone blue and my yellow ochres that I know are good. So it's different. Like, before I would just grab whatever, and then sometimes things just didn't work out because you'd grab the wrong blue or something for a mix, or the layering just didn't, the glazing of the paints didn't work like you expected. Now I've really gotten to know those specific paints, and it's different now. I really love my paint in a way I didn't before. Before it was just kind of a massive collection of paints, and now it's like I'm getting to know them finally. I know this sounds absurd or really stupid, but it's definitely changed my mindset as I paint. So I to some extent regret having purchased such a big set, such a big collection, because it gives me too many options, and I didn't build that relationship with those paints from the beginning, where I definitely could have, but live and learn. So I guess what it really comes down to is I still have a ton of paint, and I'm really happy with what I have. I have a very diverse set of paints. I really love my Schmincke for those flat washes. I know Schmincke does have granulating, and now they have very granulating paints, like the special editions they released and I couldn't buy because I was on no-buy. But I tend to favor Daniel Smith for their granulating paints. I think they have some really interesting ones right out the gate, and I really love them. So I have those two main palettes I work with for those two things. I do love Beam paints. I think that they're really pretty. I think they smell incredible, and I really do love working with them. But between the Little Cookie and then the more earthy colors I have from the, I think it was like the Mother Earth palette, which are for those paint stones at the top, I have a good enough collection that I could really pretty much do what I want. And, you know, there's no problem mixing and matching. So if I want something I don't have, I can pull it from one of my many other palettes and it's fine. I actually have not touched my core paints this entire year. Unless they happen to be in that Daniel Smith, but there might be a couple in the Daniel Smith palette, but I really don't think I used them. So I had the high chroma set only, so I don't have that much, but unless I grabbed them without even realizing that's what I was using, I didn't gravitate for them. I didn't look for them while I was doing this no-buy. And to me, that just tells me it's paint I really didn't need to own. I do love them. They're beautiful colors, but they don't enhance my collection in a way that makes them invaluable to me. And I feel that if I continue to buy more and more paints, that's where I'm going to be. Same with brushes. I have a lot of brushes, and I've kind of narrowed it down to a set. Like, I have what I really love to use for watercolor, what I really love to use for gouache, and then some others that I need for certain, like if I'm doing a large painting, I have a few larger brushes I'll use that I generally don't use because I generally work small. But I'm pretty set with what I have right now. Like I said, I have so many sketchbooks and a lot of them are amazing, so I don't feel inclined to buy another one right away. However, when this one runs out, I definitely want another one that's just like the blue, green, and gray paper, and I look forward to buying that. I said buying it, so if you're listening, Spofgh, I'm Spofgh, I'm going to pay for it. I don't know my own friends' names. That was awkward. But yeah, otherwise, like I said, I'm going to generally continue going with the no buy for now. If there's something I really, really want, I'm not going to completely tell myself no at this point. I want to take that moment to really think through things of do I need this? What do I need this for? How am I going to use it? Because now I really have a better understanding of how I work and what I need. There are, like I said, some of those temptations with those other handmade paint companies. I think one thing that really appeals to me about Gallo is they have the Yinmin blue. And I don't know, like part of somewhere in the back of my brain for this whole time, I've had this idea of like, I'd really love to do like, I'm just going to say it, like a something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue, and look at like blue from lapis lazuli to ultramarine to Yinmin blue, which is kind of like a history of blue paints. Those little things excite me, and I'm sure a lot of people listening probably have no idea what I'm getting excited about and being nerdy about, but as much as I'd like to play with that and I'd like to try those out and kind of do a comparison video and look into the history of those paints a bit more, I really don't need it. I have a lot of blues and I'm perfectly happy with the blues I do have. It's just that like magpie brain doing its thing, telling me what I need to do when I don't need to buy things, she says as she waits for her new fountain pens to arrive. We're just going to take a moment to ponder that one. Yeah, for the record, I mentioned fountain pens a couple times. I don't really do art with fountain pens. I do a lot of journaling and planning and writing letters, so different part of my collection. So it didn't really technically qualify as an art supply anyway, but nevertheless. So if you're interested in doing a no-buy, I would absolutely recommend it. You definitely don't have to go for an entire year. I guess I should have mentioned, since I did mention that this came partly out of Tori's Discord, Tori actually was doing a no-buy. I don't know if she still is. So that also drove a lot of people on that Discord to consider it. It wasn't just me coming out of it going, wow, I'm buying too much and manipulating others into buying things. She actually has been doing a no-buy for quite some time, or had been. And so she motivated a bunch of us to give it a go. Of those who committed to the no-buy, I'm not sure how many people are still going. Most people started in January. So everyone had different start dates. I should have mentioned that before. I definitely don't get sole credit for any of this. But yeah, I'm losing my train of thought. But yeah, it's just a bunch of us decided to give it a go, and I did complete my initial year. I'm very excited about that. But yeah, we'll see where it goes from here. I had something I was talking about and it's gone. It's just gone now. That's how my brain works. It's been a long week, month, year. I don't know. So, would I recommend it? I would absolutely recommend doing a no-buy, especially if you're kind of in the same mindset where you tend to buy stuff when you're stressed, or if your collection's really big and you're not constantly using everything, or if you're really, even if you're stepping back and trying to learn your current media better, and you get distracted by new shiny things, new media all the time, it's absolutely worth giving a go. You don't necessarily have to commit to like a full year. You do it just for you or like amongst a group of friends, and commit to any time frame you want. And if you break it, you know what? You broke the no-buy. But I think it's still worth trying if you've got a big collection, or you're getting distracted by new stuff all the time, or you're just getting to the point like me where you're kind of hoarding a bit. It doesn't hurt to give it a try. And if it doesn't work out for you, that's okay. You can start it up again later or move on from it. Maybe you really didn't have that much stuff and you thought you were ready for a no-buy, but then you decided it was time to move from student grade paints to professional, whatever. But I've personally found it to be really helpful. And even in just terms of like watching a YouTube video and someone's trying something new, I'm like, oh, that's really cool, but I'm on no-buy. It just helps turn off the magpie part of the brain that wants all the new things. So for me, it's been a really interesting experience. I learned a lot both about my supplies and myself, and I absolutely recommend trying it. If you find yourself in that same position, if you're not in that same position, and you're just starting to build your collection, or you have plenty of income and you just want to go wild, you do you. I mean, I'm not going to judge you either. This is really just about where I was and how I felt about it, and everyone is able to do whatever makes them happy. But yeah, I mean, buying art supplies definitely did make me happy, but at the same time, it was starting to get ridiculous. I think, yeah, I have a video that goes through my swatch book, so you could go back to that and see that I have entirely too much paint. But that's pretty much it for this unasked for video. At this point, I'm just adding some shiny because I really like playing with the shiny paints again. Hadn't used them in a while. One thing I really do like about Beam Paints is that all of the mica, all the shiny paints are ethically sourced synthetic mica, so they're still beautifully shiny and reflective, but they work great, but there's no unethical mining of mica that's behind it, so I really do respect that about them. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for this video. One of the things that's really starting to bother me is how much editing I have to do with my camera to make it look even remotely like the real piece. So maybe that's what I'll invest in next again instead, is like a new camera, because my camera is really old and it's doing the best it can. We'll see. But yeah, if you've done a no-buy before and you want to talk about it, please feel free to comment below. Otherwise, I will just talk to you guys in a future video. Take care of yourselves. Thank you for being here. Bye.